Friday, May 6th. And let's begin with the stuff from there. So, one, we're going to read chapter 5 together. So that makes things hopefully a little bit easier. We should be able to get all the way through chapter 5 unless we really have a problem. But then that'll hopefully make the quiz easier, because then I will have read all of 1, all of 2. You had to read 3 on your own. And then I read all of 4 and all of 5. Monday, we read 6 together. And so at some point next week, you will have to read on your own, because Tuesday, Wednesday are the short class periods with NWEA again. But my goal is to try and read as much with you as I can. But then we're going to be talking end of book like next Thursday, and then taking the test next Friday. As far as it here, the quiz, I'm having it as homework as opposed to having you guys do it in class, because I thought that might make things a wee bit easier on you. It unlocks after school at 4 o'clock. It is not due until Sunday, and I will be basically checking them Monday morning when I come into school. So you have till then, for those of you who may have fallen behind on reading or something like that. It is 13 questions. You will have 40 minutes once you unlock it, and it is a one-take test. So hopefully that helps somewhat with it. And those of you who have not paid attention, yes, it'll probably make things a little bit of a struggle for you.
You're enough.
Let's see, today's quiz. Did that one, 13 questions. Oh, if you don't have it turned in by Monday morning, it does cost you the 3 points, because it counts as not doing homework. So it does become the late grade, which means the highest grade you get is the 80%, and then it does cost you the 3 B points. So just giving you a heads up as far as that part goes. Then, did you guys I talked with about speeches already?
No.
I must have been my 7th period I talked to. I knew one of my classes I did. So here's how the speeches thing works. Your 4th 9 weeks semester or final exam is a speech.
Of course.
So I figured we should probably do that whole talking thing.
Nice teacher.
That's what I'm saying.
So, I've got a feeling after judging by some of your reactions here that some of you are not necessarily looking forward to giving a speech for the 4th 9 weeks. Which is why you already gave your speech. So, I arranged things this year because I assumed at the end of the year you'd be brain dead and not wanting to give a speech. So, I had you guys give your semester exam speech way back at the beginning of the 4th 9 weeks, which was that speech grade that was there. You already gave your speech. I'll be putting it onto Skyward this weekend. Now, some of you didn't do so well on speech because you kind of went a little brain dead and struggled. If you would like to redo speech, you will have that option next week to redo speech, and you will give a speech next Friday. If you choose to redo speech, you can get full points for it, all the way up to a complete A+. Your punishment is having to give another speech. I figure that's punishment enough. I take the highest grade of the 2 speeches. If you don't remember your grade, you could look in your handouts where I handed it back to you, or you could wait until I post it on Skyward this weekend, and you can do it that way. Either one's fine with me. It was the speech where you had to tell a story about your childhood, or you could have done a fable, or you could, so you had like those options where you could have done like the plot of a story, and so you had your choice. The biggest issue is kids following directions, but that is the speech that is your 4th 9 weeks grade. Selma?
Is it on Skyward yet?
Right. And so that'll be what we have coming up as far as next week goes from that one. Yes. Correct. Those of you who are not here, you are going to be giving the speech next week. That is the drawback to, I know. I've had a couple of kids who moved in, and we'll help you out on that one too. Eli?
So, graded like the speech and the paper. So, which one are you going to be grading?
Again, if you do not want to read Twttin, you are more than welcome to use the audiobook thing. So I figure I keep throwing that out there to try and help you out. For those of you who, for the quiz this weekend, if you had not read Chapter 3 and you want to go back to Chapter 3, figured I'd throw it out there to help you. All right. Here's how you find Quizzy Thing. It'll be over yonder to try and help you out. Go clicky clicky. Again, over weekend, and you should be good to go from there. And then those of you who need or choose to redo speech, that'll be a thing we talk about next week. I'll have all new handouts for you. I can give you the quick rundown and stuff like that to help you out. Twttin! Today, well, let's back up a little bit. We had love triangle thing from there. Let's see, love triangle thing on that one, and then chapter 4. I think chapter 4, the one we did yesterday, was kind of boring. And that's why I read that one to you. Today, a character dies. And so it's not going to be quite in that whole boring area because this is where big stuff happens. It's not really a spoiler because it comes out of nowhere where all of a sudden you're just like, ah! And the person's dead and you're like, what? And so it shouldn't be too much of a spoiler for you except to know by the time we end class today, we're going to be down one character by the time we get there. Yes.
This is like movies, like, you know, like in shows where someone gets killed and there's like a secret, like you don't know, and then they finally reveal who did it. Is that kind of like this is gonna be the
Nope,
chapter?
you're gonna find out all. There's only a secret if you fall asleep. Anthony, I can't tell you. I mean, she does play a really small.
I mean, Angela is a bit of a psycho, probably.
Oh, she's not a little bit of a psycho. Monday, when we read again, we're gonna get to find out more about her psychoness. Selma. Sure.
Mr. Brovicast.
Yes.
She's a lot of different psychos.
Not disagreeing.
Ooh.
Isha again.
Can you not
Can you not give me ammunition?
When she typed right on the board, I know I tried to type. You didn't answer me.
Weird. Serena. It's from the book my advanced class is reading. It's Inigo Montoya. Yes, dear. No. Put the phone on the desk, and then put the shoe on my desk, and then sure. That's fine with me. Chapter 5, page 76. So we just finished with the part where they found out about the stealing of the principal's car and stuff like that. And now we're going to be jumping back to the hospital. Hang on. Logan, the whole point, you have to turn and have your knees between. That was the whole point of having to move up to that front spot. I know, I like Serena also, but so many issues with kids these days.
Why are you so popular?
You got zip ties and tape on the chairs.
You don't have to scoot it, I just said turn.
Where is that even?
The first time Mom knew anything about Mark being hurt was when we visited her in the hospital and she saw the stitches in his head. They were real noticeable against his gold hair. She just said, "How'd that happen?" And Mark answered, "Fight." And the subject was dropped. And that was a good thing about Mom. I mean, she'd cry over a dog with a piece of glass in his paw, but remained unhysterical when we came home clobbered. About fights, she'd say, "Don't fight at school, you'll get expelled." About drinking, I'd rather you didn't. So around her, we didn't. She didn't know about some of the rest of the stuff we did. The pool games, the poker, the gang fights, the dry riverbed parties. But in that respect, she wasn't any different from any other mother. Parents never know what all their kids do. Not in the old days, not now, not tomorrow. It's a law. I'm assuming that's still true, that parents don't all know what you guys do and you guys get up.
That's facts.
Yes, at least for me.
Being the fact that I'm a parent, that kind of scares me.
I do some stuff that I don't like doing.
We stopped in to see that kid Mike, the one who'd been beaten up so bad. He looked worse than he had before. He said his old man had been in and chewed him out. The doctor had promised him his father wouldn't be allowed to come see him anymore, but he was still shook. He looked like a nervous wreck, as well as a physical one. "I wish I was dead or somebody else," he said. "Oh man, you just don't say things like that." I didn't stay long. Things like that depress me. Mark stayed on to see if he could cheer up Mike. I wanted to go to the snack bar and see Kathy anyway. She looked as cute as ever. She said, "Hi, Brian." Not too eager, but friendly enough. I called her a few times in the last couple of weeks and walked to her house to see her, but we hadn't been out. I didn't have a car, and Charlie was still so mad about getting his draft notice that I didn't have the nerve to ask him for his card again. As a matter of fact, he was in such a rotten mood that I stayed away from his place altogether. We were friends. I didn't think he'd ever take his temper out on me, but with big guys, it's safer to be careful. "I'm on my break now," Kathy said, looking at the clock. This was an invitation for me to buy her a soda, so I said obligingly, You want a Coke? I knew you'd say that, Kathy said. She came around to my side of the counter and sat down next to me. I never could get over her honesty. Girls are usually careful not to let you know what they're thinking. Kathy hadn't dated before. Maybe that was why she was so open. She didn't tell me that about not dating, of course. I mean, I found that out from Eminem. I found out a lot of things from Eminem. I've never known anyone so unsuspicious as that little kid. I mean, you trust Jack the Ripper. He was just a believer. I kept comparing Kathy to Angela. I guess because out of all the girls I've dated, I started dating at 13, they were the two I liked best. I don't know if like is the right word for how I felt about Angela. I've been wrapped up in her. I had to see her every day. I had to talk to her 10 times a day on the phone. But now, looking back on it, I don't remember ever liking her. Kathy was smart, but Angela knew more. That was strange. They both had guts. I can't stand chicken girls, but in different ways. Kathy wasn't afraid to say what she thought. Angela wasn't afraid to do what she wanted. Angela wasn't afraid of any boy on earth. Kathy wasn't afraid of any other girl. They were both gutsy, just in different ways. My main problem with Kathy was that she liked me, and I wanted her to be crazy about me. I'm like that. I have a very bad ego hang-up. Hey, guess who called me? Kathy said. Pony Boy Curtis. He wanted to go out Friday night. No kidding, I said, while thinking, I'm going to murder that guy. What'd you tell him? I said I was busy. Am I? I was stunned again, but didn't show it. Yeah, you are. I'll pick you up at 7. I had no idea what I was going to pick her up in or where we'd go after I did pick her up, but I figure I could work that out later. Hey, we're going hustling, I told Mark as we walked home trying to hitch a ride. This time there was no friendly hippie showing up to give us a lift. Okay, tonight, for money. You're going to need some money to get started with, Mark said, lighting a cigarette. I'll get it. We ran into Eminem at the drugstore. As usual, he was chomping on that crazy candy. At least he wasn't staring into the bag like it contained the 8th wonder of the world. Hey, I need some money, I said, deciding not to beat around the bush. You got any? He looked at me with those serious war orphan eyes. I got $5. I raked some lawns to get it. I used to think he and Kathy looked an awful lot alike, but not anymore. Sure, they both had those big charcoal eyes and matching hair, but Kathy laughed more. Her expression usually twinkled with humor. Eminem rarely smiled. He always looked puzzled, serious, trusting. Doing the math at the very beginning of the whole book thing, if that was $3 equaled around $60, then $5 would be closer to, probably closer to $100.
Like now, like today?
Yeah, closer to like now or today, which isn't quite as much as I could sell the girl's phone for who thinks she's being sneaky with it, but I could try at least to get close to that amount.
Broviac. Wait, what? Mr. Broviac.
What?
Oh, I thought you forgot.
Oh, that was silly. I apologize. It's because you had it behind the thing. I didn't mean to accuse you on that one. It looks suspicious. I'm going to give you your points back now because I'm a horrible person.
Did you search up middle-aged guys to find that?
No, I looked up pool playing.
What?
Don't worry, the next picture is better.
Uh-oh.
I apologize for falsely accusing you. That was on me. It did. I mean, you do have the thing blocking in front of it, so it did look kind of sus.
I can see that.
Oh, no. There you go. I believe you now. You're good to go home.
I'm not the only one who does that.
You do the things because it was sus. We're going to talk about that in a moment coming up too, because that comes up in just a second.
Do you have a shirt of that? Of this?
I don't. It's hard to find this because it's not as.
We should make one.
I'd like to actually. It's not a bad idea. Serena.
I can see Selma and Logan.
Oh,
Good job.
God.
You have eyeballs.
Like, I'm responding to my snaps, please.
Move them so I couldn't see them, and I can still.
No, not so you can't see them, so they can't turn around as easily. You're sitting there. You can see
I can turn
everyone in
around
the room.
easier.
She could literally just turn her head right, and I
It's charged for it.
Who's getting your
Let's see back there.
Charles didn't know where he
That's a good deal. Can you loan it to me? Just for tonight? I'll pay you back tomorrow. He pulled out his billfold and took all the money out of it. Be sure not to forget to give it back tomorrow. Sorry. Be sure not to forget to give it back tomorrow. I need it, okay? Kid, have I ever given you a dirty deal? I said, winking at Mark. No, Eminem said, and went back to his magazine. I never could figure that kid out. I liked him, though. I mean, partly because he was Kathy's brother, partly because he was a good kid, partly because he lived to a nice old age in our neighborhood. For a sucker. Mark had given him back his peace medal. It hung around his neck on the rawhide string, and Eminem kept twisting it absent-mindedly. I wondered if his father still gave him a bad time because of his hair. We decided to hit Charlie's place first. Charlie grinned and waved at us when we came in, so I figured he was over his bad mood about being drafted. Guess what? He said, just like a kid. It was the first time I'd ever seen him act like a kid. They're not going to take me. How come? Mark asked, flopping down at the bar. You got like a bad knee from playing football? Charlie shook his head. No, it's because of my police records. Hey, you got a record? I didn't know that. What'd you do? When I was 12 years old, I cut a guy's throat. You in here to play pool? I still don't know if Charlie was telling the truth or just kidding us. Sort of telling us that it was none of our business what his police record was for. Either was possible. Yeah, we're here to play pool. Are there any possibilities? Charlie nodded toward the pool room. Yeah, there's a couple of guys in there. I watched them a little. You guys can take them.
Oh, that's some guys, all right.
Why is there like an animated
Those are
version of
boys.
the
It
last
looks like
picture?
Fine.
It looks like the iPad icon, not that evil laugh.
It looks like a Samsung icon.
It's almost like you guys don't want me to do Brovy art.
Roby art, I love Roby.
I charge all you guys who talked. It's okay. It's good stuff. Back to here. All right.
It's a quick one.
Oh, then you won't forget it. All right. Good enough, I said. I was like, you can take him. Good enough, I said, sliding off the stool. Hey, wait a minute, Charlie said. We turned. Would it do any good to tell you to be careful? Nope, said Mark bluntly. Charlie kind of laughed and sighed at the same time. I didn't think so. Now I'll pause if you need to make comments about my Brovy art.
Roby art.
But what? No.
Yes.
Give that.
You should probably Photoshop some
Wait, you made
hair on
that?
them or
I ain't
something.
gonna lie, that's kind of
Beards or something.
Yeah, what is
No,
Photoshop
no,
some
no.
beards on them.
Yeah.
and-
No,
Why
Glenn has the hairstyle like Logan
Mr.
does.
Perfect, you should stop. Logan.
So,
Yo, wait, it looks like
with this
Eli, you're
The
going on the right.
problem we're going to have...
Why are they all white?
Problem we're going to have is that they are going to be gambling when they play. But it's the reason that Charlie asked them to be careful is because they're not just gambling. It's a thing that's called hustling. And hustling is different than gambling. Gambling is when you have an even chance and you're trying to see who can win by doing a thing and you're sort of betting on it. Hustling is when you pretend to be worse at something to get someone else to bet more money when you're really much better than you are. And you can hustle anything that requires skill. You can hustle checkers, you can hustle chess. There's a movie from way back in the 90s called White Men Can't Jump, which was all about hustling.
That movie is legendary.
About hustling basketball, because it was the same idea where they would bet and they thought this guy couldn't play basketball because he was a white boy, but it turns out he could.
He could
And
jump,
so
though.
he could not
Got
jump, but he could play basketball. And so there was the idea of hustling that. So what happens with Brian and Mark is when they go in here to play pool, what they'll do is pretend to be really bad at pool to get the other people to start betting more and more. And Mark will be, or Brian will be like, I don't even know how to play pool. Which end do you hit it with? You just hit the ball like this. And the other person's like, oh my God, you're an idiot. And then he was like, let me try. And he's like, ka-dink. He's like, oh, it went in. And he gets all excited. And the other person's like, you're an idiot. I'll bet you even more money. And he was like, I don't have the money. And you keep building it up. And then eventually you're like, ka-dink, did that go in? Did I win that game? Wow, how'd I win? And then you keep pretending until eventually you get more and more money. Problem
That is
is,
when they go kill you.
when you do it, it tends to make you a little sassy, and then it tends to make the other people a little angry. And
Oh.
when you make
That's
them angry, that's when the bad things happen.
Is that how he died?
I don't know.
Wait, Brian
If
died.
only like more reading was going to happen.
And they killed the
Monty ruined it.
We played pool until 12 o'clock that night. The two guys we played against were tough characters, these out-of-towners from Texas. At first, we played partners. me and Mark losing by a couple of balls, then Mark started his routine about wanting to go home. Come on, Brian. You lost all the money you can spare while I played the eager kid. I know I can win the next game. Then we played singles, and I played the better of the two. A weather-beaten guy in his 20s who looked like an ex-con. For all I know, he was. I don't know where else he could have picked up his lingo because he used the worst language I'd ever heard, and I've heard plenty. I was careful not to win at first, and then, when I did start winning, I only made it by a few points, so it looked like an accident. But once I started winning, I didn't quit. By midnight, I had $25.50. So how much did he borrow from M&M?
Don't I want?
$5. And now he's up to, so if the $5 was close to 100, this would be,
And 50 cents is like $6.
Like 1,200? No. 800.
this explains your guys' math I step source.
English is easy.
Wait, how much was
500.
What's 5 times 100?
5 times 100 is 100.
500.
Good luck.
No, that's
500. It's
That's
500.
Oh yeah, we have the math.
I mean, sorry, it's
I thought
5,000.
he said 1 times.
You're a darn good pool player.
5 is
Dirty.
5,000.
Dirty Dave said.
I can.
He told us that was his name, or words to that effect. His friend, who'd been standing around drinking beer for the last 3 hours, mumbled something about being too good for his own good, but Dirty Dave shut him up. Closing time, Charlie said. I'm going to go ahead and get the turn. Your knees come out and put you in the hallway, because every time you turn, you try to make eye contact with Eli, and then the two of you guys keep giggling, and it becomes a little distracting. So I'm going to have to force you to go all the way around.
All day.
Uh-huh, totally.
What? What is this?
All right. His friend, who'd been standing around drinking beer for the last 3 hours, mumbled something about being too good for his own good, but Dirty Dave shut him up. Closing time, Charlie said. He didn't have any other customers but us by that time. He'd been watching the game for the last hour and a half. We're leaving. Mark was sitting on the table of a booth, drinking a beer. I don't know where he got it, and from the surprised look Charlie gave him, Charlie didn't know where he got it either. See you around, kids, the Texan said as they sauntered out. I was busy counting my money. Mark was stretching his legs. So the hustler strikes again, Charlie said. How much did you get? Enough. Can I borrow your car again sometime? Yeah, I guess so. Just as long as you buy gas. Now come on, beat it. I got some work to do. And next time you sneak a beer, golden boy, you're going to get stomped on. I didn't sneak nothing. I simply walked over and drew a beer. I can't help it if you didn't see it. I left a quarter on the cash register. You are good at being invisible, man, because anybody gets within 10 feet of that cash register, I know it. Nah, you're getting blind in your old age, Mark said, apparently not caring if he got stomped on or not. I gave him a warning look. He obediently shut up. I wasn't taking any chances. We left as soon as we could. We didn't get far. 2 dark shapes stepped out of the alley next to Charlie's, and a voice drawled, "Step right into the alley, kiddies." I froze because the voice was Dirty Dave's. I thought about making a run for it, but the voice said, "I got a gun," so I decided not to. I still didn't move. Mark suddenly said, "We don't want to see the alley. Yeah, we've seen it before." And he sounded like he was trying not to laugh. "We're going to give you a lesson on why not to hustle pool. Just step into the alley. Now." I glanced at Mark over my shoulder. He shrugged like he was saying, "What else can we do?" So we walked past the Texans into the alley. I was beginning to shake. I was having visions of my thumbs being chopped off or my arms being broken. Things like that happen to hustlers. When we reached the dead end of the alley, we turned and faced the Texans. The one guy was holding a gun on us while Dirty Dave was putting on some brass knuckles. And I could just picture what my face was going to look like when he got through with me. I suddenly remembered Mark, who hadn't done anything but get me started. "Let Mark go," I said, and my voice was steady. I was surprised. I thought I'd be shaking as bad as I was. He didn't do nothing. I'm assuming you guys know what brass knuckles are?
Yes.
Those like things.
They make you so where you punch someone, it hurts much more than actual
They're
punching.
heavy and metal, and the idea is that when you hit somebody, it does way more damage. And a lot of them have like little spiky ridges to
Yeah.
them, which if you hit someone in the head can give them concussion or kill them. It becomes a really violent thing. And so it just sort of depends on that. They are illegal to have because of the fact of the damage that they can do. So that's what the other guy's putting on. Oh, let's see. He didn't do nothing, Mark said
It's like
quietly.
butt paws.
I'm not going anywhere. And Dave said, you better believe it. You were setting him up. And when I get through with Hustler here, I'm going to give you a lesson too. Brass knuckles, guns, whatever, Mark said in a voice I couldn't even recognize as Mark's. You'll know you've been in a fight you tangle with me. Yeah, I'm really scared, kid, he said. And my eyes were used to the dim light by now. I could see past the Texans into the street, and I was praying for a police car, something I never thought I'd ever do. Dave took a step toward me, and I backed up against the alley wall. And I was afraid that if I moved to grab up something to fight with, the other guy would shoot me. And just at that moment, somebody stepped into the other end of the alley, and a voice said, drop the gun and freeze. I got a sawed-off shotgun here, and I'd hate to scatter dirt all over this nice, clean alley. It was Charlie. I never thought I'd be so glad to see anyone. Brian, Mark, come on out of there. We couldn't resist smirking a little as we walked past the Texans. Even in the dark, I could see the anger contorting their faces. It should have warned me, but it didn't. Thanks, Charlie, Mark said as we reached him. You're a real pal. I hope you two learned something from this, Charlie began. But before we knew what was happening, one of the Texans made a dive for the gun and fired at us. Charlie slammed both of us to the ground. But in an instant, Mark freed himself, grabbed up the shotgun Charlie had dropped, and fired back at the Texans, who were scrambling over the alley wall. It all happened so quickly that I was trying to figure out what I was doing on the ground with my ears ringing from the blast before I realized what had taken place. Mark was swearing, and in the dim light, he didn't even look like Mark. He looked perfectly capable of murder. His only regret was that he missed. I didn't have any similar regrets. If he had missed, well, so had they. And you can't feel too bad when you could have been dead, but aren't. And you can get off me now, Charlie. Charlie didn't move. He rolled out from under him. Hey, man, come on. Then in the white, sickly light from the streetlights, I saw that there was a neat, perfect hole above Charlie's left eye. He was dead.
Oh my god.
So, Charlie's the one
I
that
got
died.
blasted.
Cause like
Ain't
you
gonna
said
lie.
you fell, so I'm like.
Yep, you are correct. I wouldn't talk about what had happened to anyone but Kathy and Mark. The next few weeks, it seemed as if I was moving in slow motion while other people were speeded up. Mom came home from the hospital, and I flunked chemistry, and Angela got married to some creep friend of her brother's. Angela is Brian's ex-girlfriend, the one that sicked the guy to beat up Ponyboy. She's 16 years old. And so she just got married to one of her older brother's friends at 16. And it's even worse than you think, but we find out more later on.
Oh no.
I called Kathy every day. Mark was the one who explained everything to the police. The police were very impressed with Charlie's having saved our lives and all that. They were local cops who had known and liked him anyway. They told us we could have his car. I took it because I figured he'd given it to us if he'd had the time. I guess I was acting pretty strange during those weeks because one day Mark said, "Look it, man, Charlie knew what kind of people came into his bar. Why do you think he kept a shotgun handy? He knew those cowboys had a gun. He knew what kind of a chance he was taking. He told us to be careful," I said. I couldn't get it out of my mind. Charlie's warning us about hustling. He didn't have to try to get us off the hook, Mark. Can't you see? This ain't some story. Like a TV show? Bang, you're dead, big deal, get up again? This is the real thing. Charlie is dead. Charlie was set for life. He wasn't going to get drafted. He had his business. He was set. We blew it for him. We didn't blow nothing, Brian. Things happen. That's all there is to it. No, man, not things like that. Mark didn't understand, and Kathy did. I started spending more and more time with Kathy. I mean, since I had the car, we went for a lot of drives and got a lot of cokes together. We were always talking to each other about the way we felt. I tried telling her how I felt about Charlie, about how shook the whole thing had me. She told me about herself, about how she wanted to go to college more than anything, and about how she worried about M&M and about life and a big family, something I wasn't familiar with at all. She was so smart, yet she didn't know a lot of things. She was one of the few really innocent chicks I'd ever run into. But I could talk to her about anything. I could talk to her better than I could anyone, even Mark. After a few weeks, we'd drive by the park and make out for a little while. And it was different for me, though, because I'd quit thinking only about myself. I'd quit pushing for all I could get. Mark was acting strange these days, too. He'd stare at me for long periods of time when he thought I wasn't watching, like he was trying to find the old Brian and this stranger, like he was trying to figure out who I was. One night, he even almost lost his temper with me when I told him I was going goofing around with Kathy instead of with him. It was as if he felt something slipping and was trying to hang on. I couldn't help him. I was just trying to hang on myself. He even acted like he was jealous of Kathy. In all the years I'd known him, in all the years I'd gone with different girls, he'd never acted like that. I was changing, and he wasn't. Your quizzy thing will be due Monday. Yeah, that's how recording in class works.